Part 40. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 391. Tianren Hospital, in the front yard. After taking a deep breath and suppressing the joy that was constantly surging in his heart, Zhang Fengjai walked to the 6 demon beasts above the 7th level of foundation building. While sending them off for the last time, he also used the container prepared in advance to collect some of the blood flowing from their wounds. Finally, he walked to the side of the blue-striped giant python, looking at its body full of explosive power, with a hint of excitement in his eyes. After consciously mobilizing the 2 Taoist silver needles in the Sea of Consciousness to seal its Sea of Consciousness and the source of demonic power respectively, Zhang Fengjai took out his mobile phone and began to contact Zhuang Jian, and then asked her to find a way to mobilize 2 heavy trucks to Tianren Hospital. Then, he looked up at Dongfang Wan'er, Guanshan, and Duanshan standing at the door of the hospital. Fellow Daoist Kingxiu, I am from Hedan City, and Duanshan is from Wuo City. Facing Zhang Fengjai's indifferent gaze, Guanshan, who trembled slightly in his heart, immediately invited with a flattering smile on his face. If Daoist Kingxiu is free in the future, you can come to my Hedan City to appreciate the peony, the king of flowers, or go to Brother Duanshan's Wuo City to see the spectacular scenery of Emperor Huangdi's Fengshan. Thank you for the invitation. If I am free in the future, I will definitely go to bother you two. Facing Guanshan's initiative to release goodwill, Zhang Fengjai said politely with a smile on his face. Daoist Kingxiu, Brother Duanshan, and I have important things to deal with, so we will leave for the time being. Zhang Fengjai politely accepted the invitation, indicating that he no longer hated himself and Duanshan for standing by and watching, which made Guanshan secretly relieved, and hurriedly bowed with one hand to say goodbye. Be careful on the road, 2 seniors, I won't see you off. After watching Guanshan and Duanshan's luxury car leave, Zhang Fengjai cast his eyes on Dongfang Wan'er and asked with a complicated expression. Miss Dongfang, I wonder what your relationship is with Dongfang Zongdao, who is known as the senior of the Earth's eyes. That is Wan'er's great-grandfather, Dongfang Wan'er replied with a frown. I wonder how the Dongfang family is doing now, since they are direct blood relatives, they must know about Dongfang Zongdao, Zhang Fengjai asked hurriedly. Who are you? How did you know my great-grandfather's Taoist name? Dongfang Wan'er frowned even more, and asked with a trace of vigilance in her eyes. Without answering Dongfang Wan'er's question for the time being, Zhang Fengjai turned back to the pangolin that had just been killed, and then consciously mobilized the Heaven Sword Qi in the Sea of Consciousness to consume 1/10 of the energy of the Heaven Sword Qi, and extracted 3 drops of life essence blood from the pangolin that had reached the 8th level of foundation building. Then, he threw the porcelain bottle containing the pangolin's life essence blood to Dongfang Wan'er, and Zhang Fengjai reminded her gently. Miss Dongfang, 3 drops of pangolin monster's life essence blood are my gift to you. As for who I am and how I know Senior Dongfang's Taoist name, you only need to ask Senior Dongfang one person, and he will tell you what you want to know. Who is it? Dongfang Wan'er asked immediately after reaching out to take the porcelain bottle. Master Wuxin. Hearing the Taoist name given by Zhang Fengjai, Dongfang Wan'er thought carefully for a while, and when she found that she had no memory of Master Wuxin in her mind, she decisively gave up this waste of energy. Afterwards, she looked up and looked directly into Zhang Fengjai's eyes, as if she wanted to say something but stopped. Miss Dongfang, although the essence energy contained in the dragon crystal can help greatly improve our cultivation, for the pseudo-dragon vein, the dragon crystal is also the key to whether it can be promoted to a real dragon vein in the future. Knowing that Dongfang Wan'er wanted to say something but stopped, Zhang Fengjai directly gave the reason for his refusal. The bloody battle between me and the fake dragon vein at noon today not only turned enemies into friends, but also formed a deep friendship with each other, so I will never allow anyone to destroy the foundation for its future promotion to the dragon vein. Ah! Hearing Zhang Fengjai decisively reject her request for dragon crystals, Dongfang Wan'er couldn't help but sigh, turned back to the dazzling red Ferrari sports car, and then started the sports car to leave Tianren Hospital. Just as Dongfang Wan'er drove the sports car away, two heavy trucks slowly stopped at the door of the hospital, and then Zhuang Jian and Yiwen jumped out of the car. When they saw 7 huge monster corpses lying on the cement ground in the front yard of the hospital, their eyes suddenly showed shock and disbelief. "Yezi, are you okay?" After putting away the shock in her eyes, Zhuang Jian ran to Zhang Fenjai quickly, checking him up and down, and asked with concern. "Sister Yan, I'm fine." Zhang Fenjai quickly grabbed the jade hand that aroused his thoughts, smiled bitterly and indicated that it was okay, then pointed at the 6 dead monster bodies and ordered. "Sister Yan, let's get these monster bodies to the truck first." Next, Zhuang Jian and Yiwen were responsible for the 6 smaller monster bodies, and Zhang Fenjai directly carried the blue-striped giant python and stuffed it into the truck. Signing Zhuang Jian and Yiwen to wait in the truck first, he returned to the front yard of the hospital, then pressed his right hand on the cement floor, and used his consciousness to instruct the pseudo-dragon vein. "Senior, the Feng Shui formation I arranged in the hospital in advance has been integrated with the dragon vein power you gathered. If you encounter a Feng Shui master who controls the secret treasure in the future, you can use the Feng Shui formation to deal with them." After giving instructions, Zhang Fenjai stood up and prepared to leave when a crack suddenly appeared on the cement floor in front of him. Then, a crystal stone emitting a faint purple light and about the size of an apple was ejected from the crack. When he reached out to catch the crystal stone ejected from the crack, a breath that could directly cause the boiling of Danshan's spiritual power made him immediately know that the crystal stone in his hand was the dragon crystal cultivated with great difficulty by the pseudo-dragon vein. Thinking of the heaven-defying effect of the dragon crystal cultivated by the pseudo-dragon vein on the improvement of cultivation, Zhang Fenjai suddenly felt an uncontrollable surprise in his heart. However, when Zhuang Jian's call came from behind, he took 3 deep breaths in succession to suppress his joy and quickly took the dragon crystal into his arms. Then, he bowed his hand to the cement floor and gestured, then turned and walked towards the truck driven by Zhuang Jian. "Yezi, where are we going next?" Zhuang Jian asked after starting the truck and leaving the hospital. "Go to Lu Xingshu's grave." Zhang Fenjai, who had already thought of how to deal with the blue-striped giant python, ordered. "Yezi, what about the other monsters that invaded Ningji City this time?" Zhuang Jian nodded and turned the car head straight to Lu Xingshu, and asked with a trace of worry in her eyes. After all, including the blue-striped giant python that was captured alive, Zhang Fenjai only eliminated 1/7 of the monsters. The remaining 41 monsters still posed a huge hidden danger to Ningji City. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 392. Sister Yan, don't worry. Ningji City is completely safe. After smiling and comforting her, Zhang Fenjai briefly told her the result of the battle just now. The life-saving trump card given by the elders of the Shushan family killed nearly 40 monsters in the Foundation building realm at the same time. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's introduction, Zhuang Jian was so shocked that she forgot to operate the truck for a short time. At this time, if it were not for the quiet early morning, there would not be too many cars and pedestrians on the road. At this moment, if the road where the truck was driving was not the newly expanded asphalt avenue, it would definitely cause a very tragic car accident. Fortunately, Zhang Fenjai, who found out the problem in time, held the steering wheel to keep the truck moving forward steadily, and reminded Zhuang Jian. "Sister Yan, wake up quickly, I can't drive." After hearing Zhang Fenjai's reminder, Zhuang Jian, who came back to her senses from the shock, quickly held the steering wheel to control the truck again, and then glanced at Zhang Fenjai from time to time, and a thoughtful look gradually emerged in her eyes. For fear of irritating Zhuang Jian, Zhang Fenjai did not talk about the previous battle, nor did he mention the extremely precious dragon crystal. Instead, he used the means of changing the topic to gradually distract her attention. During the cheerful chat, the truck arrived at the cemetery unimpeded. After opening the truck and dragging out the blue-striped giant python, and signaling Zhuang Jian and Yiwen to wait in place, Zhang Fenjai carried the blue-striped giant python to the deepest part of the cemetery. According to the trend of the stars above his head, he chose a position close to the east of Yanggong River. He mobilized his strong body strength to dig a deep pit about 30 meters long, and then buried the blue-striped giant python in the dug deep pit. Then, he mobilized the spiritual power of Danjin to condense a sharp sword, cut 3 wounds on the head, abdomen, and tail of the blue-striped giant python respectively, and buried it again with soil. Zhang Fenjai looked up at the direction of Yanggong River and whispered to himself. The blue-striped giant python is the snake python monster with the greatest hope of transforming into a dragon. With its blood and vitality, the power of the 4 spirits soul condensation formation will be enhanced. Then the quality of the condensed spirit beads can be improved by 20% to 30%, which will be able to better assist my sister Yan and I in our cultivation. After talking to himself, he turned around and left the cemetery, and then moved the 6 dead monster bodies to the front of the cemetery. Afterwards, he used the sharp sword condensed by his spiritual power to cut off a piece of flesh from the bodies of the other 5 monsters, except for the pangolin that had lost its life essence. Afterwards, he took out a fire talisman from his sleeve, ignited it with spiritual power, and threw it directly onto the piled monster bodies. Looking at the talisman flames burning the monster bodies, Zhang Fenjai's eyes gradually showed a thoughtful look. Using the monster flesh just cut off, combined with the 1,000-year-old blood ginseng sent by the Supernatural Research Institute, the physical strength that has reached the peak limit of the small success realm can definitely be successfully promoted to the great success realm of steel and iron bones. By using the essence energy contained in the dragon crystal, he can also reach the peak limit of the 9th level of chi condensation. Not only can he smoothly advance to the foundation building stage, but also, with the previous accumulation, he may be able to reach the peak of the 1st level of foundation building in one fell swoop. If the physical body and cultivation are broken through at the same time, then no matter whether it is the sniper rifles in the secular world or the cultivators and monsters in the 3rd level of foundation building, they will not pose any threat to him. After having a detailed practice plan in mind, Zhang Fenjai turned to Zhuang Jian and Yiwen and told them, "Go back to the villa in Guanghe Huafu." When the 2 drivers arranged by Yiwen drove the truck away from Guanghe Huafu, Zhang Fenjai led them back to the villa, and then used the means of sky eye and pulse cutting to carefully check Yiwen's physique. "Yezi, how is it?" Zhuang Jian immediately chased back after seeing Zhang Fenjai retract his fingers on Yiwen's wrist. Even Yiwen, who was not good at expressing his emotions, couldn't help but clench his jade fist and look at Zhang Fenjai. "Sister Yan, Yiwen's physique is the same as what I predicted using face reading. She is suitable for the path of becoming a saint through martial arts." After nodding his head in affirmation, Zhang Fenjai looked at Yiwen with a hint of hesitation. "There are several martial arts mental methods in the research institute, but with my identity and status, it is impossible to take them out secretly, so how can Yiwen start practicing martial arts?" After getting Zhang Fenjai's affirmative reply, Zhuang Jian couldn't help but frown and feel troubled. "Sister Yan, not only do you not have to worry about the martial arts mental methods, but you don't even need to worry about Yiwen's martial arts practice." Zhuang Jian's self-talk in difficulty replaced the hesitation in Zhang Fenjai's eyes with determination, and he smiled and comforted her. "Next, I will find a martial arts master to personally guide Yiwen's practice." "Who?" Zhuang Jian asked immediately. In response, Zhang Fenjai did not respond. He took out 2 blank talisman papers from his sleeve, cut his finger and used blood to draw a door-opening talisman and a swift spell, and then handed them to Yiwen and instructed. "Yiwen, tomorrow morning you will rush to Zhang village in Fangshan town, Fuku city, and ask the villagers to take you to the home of the little fairy, and then stick this talisman on the door of the little fairy's house. After Yiwen stretched out his jade finger to take the door-opening talisman, Zhang Fengjai continued to instruct. At that time, there will definitely be 1 or 2 white-haired old men in the yard to meet you. You can give this charm to the more powerful old man among them, and he will teach you the martial arts. To guide you in your martial arts practice. Yezi, the martial arts expert who taught Yiwen, couldn't he be your second grandfather? Zhang Fengjai just mentioned the little fairy's home and the 2 gray-haired old men. The situation was very similar to the situation when Sulitzi introduced Zhang Fengjai's home. This made Zhuang Jian immediately guess who the strong man he arranged to guide Yi in practicing martial arts was. That's right. It's my second grandfather. Zhang Fengjai nodded and confirmed. Yi Wen, thank Yezi quickly. After receiving Zhang Fengjai's nod of confirmation, Zhuang Jian immediately reminded excitedly. Because Yezi's second grandfather is a martial arts master, and his strength is not inferior to the top 4 guardians of the institute. Zhang Fengjai, thank you. After standing up and bowing, Yiwen thanked him indifferently. Knowing what kind of personality changes the closed 6th palace would bring to Yiwen, Zhang Fengjai faced her indifferent expression of thanks and waved her hand without caring, then got up and walked to the kitchen to remind her. Sister Yan, Yiwen, please sit down for a while, and I'll make you a delicious dish that can improve your physique. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yuanqi. Chapter 393. Guanghe Huafu, in Villa number 7. As the saying goes, dragon meat in the world, donkey meat on the ground. Although there are records of dragons appearing in Chinese civilization, the decline of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth after the conferred God War in the Middle Ages has led to the complete extinction of dragons. Therefore, snakes and pythons, which have the qualifications to advance to dragons, temporarily replaced dragon meat as a delicacy. As the saying goes, dog meat is rolled 3 times, and the gods can't stand steadily. As dog meat that cannot be served on the table, whether it is grilled, pure, or steamed, it is a delicacy that can be called the best in the world. Therefore, whether it is for the next practice or to satisfy his own taste, Zhang Fengjai specially selected the flesh and blood of the Kinglan snake, which has reached the initial stage of the 7th level of foundation building, and the black Shiba Inu, which has reached the peak of the 7th level of foundation building, and then grilled it with the charcoal fire specially prepared by Zhu Zhenjun. Even with the help of Danshan's spiritual power to increase the power of charcoal fire, it took nearly half an hour to finally roast more than 20 kilograms of snake meat and dog meat in the face of the monster flesh and blood that was as hard as steel. Using the sharp sword condensed by spiritual power, he cut off 4 pieces of barbecued meat, each weighing 2 taels and half a kilogram, and brought them to Zhuang Jian and Yiwen, and then told them to absorb the essence of the meat and blood in the monster barbecued meat by running the mental method. Afterwards, Zhang Fengjai returned to the guest room with the remaining barbecued meat, as well as the 1,000-year-old blood ginseng, 1,000-year-old blood lotus and 1,000-year-old red fruit sent by Zhuang Jian. Next, he ate nearly 20 kilograms of barbecued meat in one breath, and directly swallowed the blood ginseng that was more than 1,000 years old. He bent his knees and sat cross-legged to run the martial arts mental method taught by his second grandfather, absorbing the essence of the monster flesh and blood ginseng, and began to impact the realm of the great success of the physical grade. When the monster flesh and blood ginseng began to burst out with extremely terrifying essence energy, Zhang Fengjai's body shook slightly, and his face could not help but change. Because he knew that he had made a serious mistake, that is, he underestimated the essence energy contained in the 1,000-year-old blood ginseng and the flesh of the monster, which led to the breakthrough of the physical body grade, and even 1/3 of the essence energy could not be consumed. In this case, the weak internal organs, meridians, and blood vessels in the body will face the impact of violent energy, and may eventually explode and die. Take a deep breath, force yourself to calm down immediately, and then use the martial arts mind method to absorb the essence energy to assist in the impact of the physical body grade, while thinking about how to deal with the remaining huge energy in the body after the physical body grade breakthrough. Used to strengthen the meridians, blood vessels, internal organs, and acupuncture points, although it can have a certain consumption effect, it is undoubtedly a drop in the bucket in the face of the terrifying essence energy that can destroy the entire villa area. Using the countless pores on the surface of the body to forcibly expel the essence energy from the body is a way, but it is limited by the fineness of the pores, and the effect is also a drop in the bucket. Continue to impact the peak of the physical grade, strive to be able to advance to the martial arts holy body that is invulnerable to all methods. Without sufficient accumulation and perception, forcibly improving the physical grade is undoubtedly a dead end. As the physical grade successfully advances to the great stage, the originally slightly black skin has a layer of light crystal white, which also makes the originally ordinary appearance become a little more handsome and a little more charming. But facing the breakthrough of the physical grade, as well as the changes in his own skin color, appearance, and charm, Zhang Fengjai not only did not show any joy, but his face showed an increasingly urgent look. Because of the successful breakthrough of the physical grade, the absorption speed of the energy essence in the body began to slow down, which also indicated that the biggest crisis facing the physical body was about to come. Continue to take a deep breath, and force yourself to calm down for the second time, and then carefully feel the energy essence in the body that is like a raging storm. When the 4 words raging storm flashed through his mind, he suddenly thought of the way to deal with the flood. Since ancient times, in the face of the outbreak of floods and natural disasters, although most of the time, the method of drainage is adopted, but when faced with a situation where drainage is not enough, then you can only try your best to block it. If you want to avoid the instantaneous outbreak of the huge essence energy in the body, you can only use a stronger force to suppress and seal it, which requires the use of the few life-saving trump cards. The sword energy of the heavenly sword given by the third grandfather has an indestructible, sharp, and fierce attack power, which is not suitable for suppressing and sealing the huge essence energy in the body. The demon power given by the special beings of Shushan has the ability to absolutely suppress and seal, but considering the huge essence energy in the body, nearly 70% comes from the blood and flesh essence of monsters. If a chain reaction is caused by this, I am afraid that I will not even have a chance to save myself. Therefore, the only life-saving trump card that can be used is the innate Yuan Li sealed in my right arm by the second grandfather. Although using the innate energy to suppress and seal the essence energy in the body would cause him to lose a powerful life-saving trump card, he felt no pain or reluctance when he thought that he could control the innate energy through his consciousness and release a part of the essence energy at any time to improve the quality of his steel-like body. Thinking of this, Zhang Fengjai immediately mobilized his consciousness to guide the innate energy into his body through the meridians of his right arm, and then began to suppress and seal the violent essence energy with all his strength. But at the moment when the innate energy and the essence energy just touched each other, the imagined full suppression not only did not appear, but the innate energy was like a hungry wolf, and began to devour the essence energy like a sheep. At this time, facing the essence energy that suddenly became docile, Zhang Fengjai no longer needed to continue to be on guard and worried. At this moment, facing the unexpected change of the innate energy, he felt puzzled. Fortunately, he thought that the innate energy was the life-saving trump card given to him by his second grandfather, and there should be no danger of backlash. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai used the means of inner vision to stare at the innate energy that devoured the essence energy. As a large amount of essence energy was devoured by the innate energy, a faint purple gradually emerged from the milky white innate energy, and a mysterious breath was emitted. As the innate energy devoured more and more essence energy, the proportion of purple occupied more and more, and the mysterious breath emitted became heavier and heavier. When all the essence energy from the monster's flesh and blood and the blood ginseng in his body was devoured by the innate energy, the ratio of white and purple was half. At the same time, The mysterious aura emanating from the innate energy made his mind clearer, and he even had the illusion that his thoughts could leave his body. Then, the innate energy suddenly retracted the mysterious aura it had emitted, and returned to his right arm uncontrollably. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuchi. Chapter 394. Guanghe Washington Mansion, in Villa Number 7. Facing the innate energy that returned to his arm, Zhang Fengjai slowly opened his eyes with a look of hesitation. Although the innate energy that caused the change did not appear to harm him at all, as a life-saving trump card that resided in his body, he now urgently needed to understand two pieces of information. The first piece of information is whether there are unpredictable risks in the innate power of fundamental changes in color and breath. The second piece of information, as the life-saving trump card given by the second grandfather, is whether one's own consciousness can still drive the innate energy. If you want to clearly understand this information, you must use your consciousness to get close to and feel the innate power that produces changes. But whether there are unpredictable risks is what makes him hesitant. Looking up at the crescent moon outside the window, a deep sense of homesickness gradually emerged in his eyes. If they rush back to Shushanjiang's house overnight, with the second grandfather and third grandfather's near spiritual abilities, they will definitely be able to thoroughly find out the cause of the change in innate energy while ensuring their absolute safety. But thinking about the bitter fruits he had sown with his conspiracy and the cruel punishment he might face, he did not have the courage to face the eldest grandfather and third grandfather in a short period of time. This is why he let Yaiwen go alone. The reasons for the Zhang family. Furthermore, since we have chosen the experience of the worldly world, we must gradually get rid of our dependence on the three grandfathers. If he had to ask the three grandfathers for help when he was in trouble, he might as well take Sulitsi back to the Zhang family in advance to live a secluded life. After retracting the thought of homesickness, a determined look flashed in Zhang Fengjai's eyes, and he slowly closed his eyes and began to mobilize his consciousness, slowly recognizing the innate energy that was close to half white and half purple. Boom! At the moment when his consciousness had just touched the innate energy, a terrifying suction force appeared out of thin air and directly forcibly sucked his consciousness into the innate energy. Jiangkan, Jiangjia. You little bastard, you are so audacious that you dare to trick your third grandpa. Don't let me catch you in the future. Otherwise, I will definitely let you have a taste of being a trapeze artist. Zhang Jinyu, who claimed to be Danshan and Consciousness C, cursed in a low voice with a depressed expression while grinding the money fruit known as steel among the medicinal materials with his palms. Third brother, this is already the 10th day, and you are not tired even if you are nagging me. Zhang Zhenheng, who was sitting cross-legged among the flowers with his knees bent, couldn't stand Zhang Jinyu's nagging and couldn't help complaining. Boy, don't stand and talk without your back hurting. When he heard Zhang Zhenheng's complaint, Zhang Jinyu immediately raised his red palm and retorted unconvinced. With your self-proclaimed cultivation level, try grinding 1,000 money fruits called steel with your palms. Third brother, the scheming brother who asked you to partner with Xiaoyizi, you deserve to be punished. Looking at Zhang Jinyu, who had not rested for 10 days and nights, he looked at the money fruit that had only ground less than a third. Zhang Zhenheng immediately retorted with gloating. Facing Zhang Zhenheng's gloating, Zhang Jinyu suddenly didn't know what to say. At the beginning, if Zhang Fengjai hadn't promised by patting his chest hard that he would bear the anger of plotting against his elder brother alone and would never involve him, he would not have used such insidious means to plot against his elder brother. The insidious plot succeeded, but what about the result? The eldest brother who broke through the last level of relationship with Shui Yunhan successfully embraced the beauty. As the mastermind of the sinister plan, Zhang Fengjai fled with his wife to the freedom of Ningji City. The only one left to bear the responsibility was that the eldest brother was so angry that he gave him cruel and inhumane punishments. How could Zhang Jinyu not be so angry that his teeth were itching? Third master uncle, don't be angry. I'll beg master later to see if I can get him to spare you your punishment. Just when Zhang Jinai was unable to refute Zhang Jinheng's gloating, Shui Yunhan's apology suddenly came to his ears. Fine. Turning her head to look at Shui Yunhan, who was pinching the hem of her clothes with her fingers, her face full of shame, when she thought that she and her eldest brother finally broke through secular ethics and came together, and gained happiness in their later years, the depressed mood in her heart suddenly eased a lot, and then she shook her head. Road. I just think of it as practicing my second brother's famous skill, iron sand palm. His famous stunt is a self-created palm technique that is hundreds of times more powerful than iron sand palm. When Zhang Jinai heard Zhang Jinai's insinuations and taunts, Zhang Zhenheng couldn't help but rolled his eyes and was about to retort. A strange feeling suddenly emerged in his heart, causing him to stand up suddenly, and then looked up in the direction of Ningji City. Uncle Second Master, what's wrong with you? Shui Yunhan couldn't help but ask worriedly when he saw Zhang Zhenheng's face gradually becoming serious as he looked toward the southwest. Well. After looking at it for nearly 3 minutes, Zhang Zhenheng sighed with a complicated expression after retracting his gaze with a sigh. Yuan Li transforms into the world, and his thoughts become gods. It seems that little Izzy has finally embarked on the path of dual cultivation of martial arts. Second brother, what on earth is going on? Just when Zhang Zhenheng's sighing voice had just fallen, Zhang Jinyan's questioning voice suddenly came from the bamboo building. Turning around and looking at his elder brother who came out of the bamboo building, Zhang Zhenheng explained with a hint of fear in his eyes. Brother, on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, Yezi I used the elixir you presented and the sword energy presented by the third child as an excuse to ask me for a life-saving trump card. I think that with the revival of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, he will definitely encounter more dangers in the next training process, so I gave him 2 innate forces as a life-saving trump card. Just now, one of the innate forces was upgraded to the martial arts Jindan force because it integrated a large amount of essence energy in a short period of time, and successfully guided Xiao Ye's consciousness into the martial arts realm, and then through the martial arts boxing and the change of Danshan spiritual power by the Jindan force, it made up for the incomplete Hunyuan taking heart method. After hearing Zhang Zhenheng's explanation, Zhang Jinyan, who walked down the bamboo building, frowned and asked. Old Third, do those 2 innate forces contain a trace of your thoughts? Or do they contain the aura of your life's Jindan? No. While shaking his head to deny, Zhang Zhenheng hurriedly explained. Brother, I haven't forgotten the oath of cause and effect that the sect will not appear, and the golden elixir will not be produced, so the 2 innate forces I gave to Xiaoye are just the forces I sealed in the wine jar before I advanced to the martial arts golden elixir realm. Qi. Hearing Zhang Zhenheng's explanation of his own cultivation, Shui Yunhan couldn't help but take a breath, and a look of disbelief appeared in his eyes. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 395. Jiangkan, Jiangjia. Since the battle of the conferred gods in the Middle Ages, the land of China has been completely isolated. Due to the decline of Taoism and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it has become increasingly difficult for Taoist cultivators, martial cultivators, demon cultivators, and Buddhist cultivators. Nowadays, let alone breaking through the foundation building realm that can prolong life, without a certain amount of talent and opportunity, it is difficult to even open up a qi condensing realm that can accommodate spiritual power. Therefore, Shui Yunhan always believed that Zhang Zhenheng, the least talented and qualified among the 3 elders of the Zhang family, had only just advanced to the innate level of martial arts. But what a result! It turns out that he has already advanced to the golden elixir avenue of martial arts and has become a peerless powerhouse at the pinnacle of the Chinese mainland. After the shock, Shui Yunhan suddenly thought of Zhang Jinyan, who had more outstanding talents and qualifications, and Zhang Jinai, who had the evil talent, and couldn't help but start to wonder about the level of their cultivation. After hearing Zhang Zhenheng's explanation, Zhang Jinyan frowned even more and said to himself. Could it be that a strong man with the sect's golden elixir realm secretly interfered? Zhang Jinyu, who had been silent all this time, shook his body slightly and unlocked the seal. He took out 3 antique copper coins from the sleeves of his Taoist robe and began to calculate. In this regard, Zhang Jinyan only paid silent attention and had no objection, which also made Zhang Zhenheng and Shui Yunhan secretly relieved. As the light from the 3 ancient copper coins disappeared, Zhang Jinyan stood up and put away the 3 coins. He took out 3 old colored charms from his sleeves, threw them to Zhang Jinyan and explained. Brother, according to the results I just calculated using the Book of Changes, as short as half a month or as long as a month, the inner sects and core disciples of the 10 major Taoist sects will go down the mountain to experience, and there will definitely be troubles because of the grievances we have formed before. Conflict. Since Yezi can no longer break away from the rules of cause and effect and embark on martial arts cultivation, the karma of the recovery of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth will inevitably fall on him. Since the difficulties in martial arts dual cultivation are caused by us, then we have the responsibility to bear the consequences. So, I decided to enter the sealed place of Mouse Mountain and attack the realm of transforming into an infant and returning to the void. If Shui Yunhan was extremely shocked by Zhang Zhenheng's achievement of the golden elixir realm of martial arts, then Zhang Jinyu's plan to attack the infant and return to the void made her completely sluggish and unable to think. Lao San, how confident are you that you can break through the realm of transforming into an infant and returning to the void? Zhang Jinyan, whose eyes immediately revealed a look of surprise, asked quickly. At the same time, Zhang Zhenheng looked at Zhang Jinyu with the same expectation. With the profound accumulation over the years, and the guidance of the 5 seniors in the sealed land, I am at least 70% sure of making a breakthrough, Zhang Jinyu replied with a confident face. Third brother, leave the Zhang family's affairs to me. Leave Yezi's safety to the second child. You can concentrate on attacking the realm of infant transformation. With a 70% chance of breakthrough, it's well worth the risk. At the same time, if you want to successfully break through the realm of transforming into a baby and returning to a void, early accumulation is important, but firm belief in breakthrough is even more important. Therefore, facing Zhang Jinyu's confident reply, Zhang Jinyan immediately gave his full support. Third brother, as long as those old guys from the 10 major sects of Dao sect don't come out early, and as long as those old monsters from the demon clan don't wake up early, then I can guarantee that no one in this world can hurt our baby. Grandson Zhang Zhenheng also quickly assured. Nodding with a pleased smile on his face, Zhang Jinyu reminded Zhang Zhenheng. Second brother, a little girl with a closed 6th house will come to you tomorrow morning. Although that little girl is a good candidate for practicing martial arts, you can only teach her the martial arts mentality and martial arts practice experience. You must not accept it. She is a disciple. Why? Zhang Zhenheng asked in confusion. If talent and qualifications determine whether a person can practice Taoism, then the conditions for practicing martial arts, in addition to talent and qualifications, also require a special physique, hard-working perseverance, and the courage to not be afraid of life and death. If the proportion of those who can practice Taoism is 1 in a million, then the proportion of those who can practice martial arts is even 1 in a million. Therefore, it is not easy to meet a seedling suitable for practicing martial arts, and it is even more lucky to meet a martial arts genius with a special physique. I can't say more about the specific reasons, but that little girl is the key to whether Yezi can win the chance of spiritual energy recovery in the future. Knowing well the serious consequences of leaking secrets, Zhang Zhenheng nodded in agreement without continuing to ask questions when faced with Zhang Jinyu's unwillingness to explain in detail. I see. Brother, recently you have been refining more elixirs that can be used to heal wounds. I think with Yezi's temper and temperament, I'm afraid there will be no shortage of conflicts with the disciples of the Taoist sect, and injuries are definitely inevitable. I understand, Zhang Jinyan nodded. Then, Zhang Jinyu stretched out his hand to cut through the void in front of him, stepped into the gap in the void, and appeared in front of the cliff entrance of the fifth peak of Rat Mountain. Guanghe Washington Mansion, in Villa Number 7. Where is this? After a brief feeling of dizziness, Zhang Fengjai slowly regained consciousness and found himself in an unfamiliar space. He couldn't help but frown and began to check. The strange space was not big, about the size of a football field, but the whole space was empty, without even a weed or a gravel, which made him feel a little irritated and couldn't help but ask loudly. "Hey, is there anyone here?" Just as the voice of the question had just fallen, a strong figure suddenly appeared in the empty strange space. "Second Grandpa," Zhang Fengjai shouted in surprise when he saw the figure suddenly appearing in front of him. Because the strong figure looked and had the same temperament as Zhang Zhenheng. However, in the face of Zhang Fengjai's call, the figure who looked exactly like Zhang Zhenheng did not give any response, but slowly began to perform martial arts boxing. Originally, Zhang Fengjai wanted to step forward and question the second grandfather why he ignored his call, but was suddenly attracted by the boxing performed by the second grandfather. While his consciousness gradually immersed in the perception of the boxing, he subconsciously followed the practice. At the moment when Zhang Fengjai began to practice boxing, the innate force sealed in his arm suddenly separated a trace of force and entered the Danshan along the meridians, and then merged with the spiritual power in the Danshan, finally forming a trace of grey energy. As Zhang Fengjai performed boxing faster and faster in the strange space, more and more white and purple force separated from the innate force, and the grey energy formed by the Danshan spiritual power became heavier and heavier. When the figure in the strange space finished performing all the boxing, it began to slowly disappear, and led to the collapse of the entire space, which also made Zhang Fengjai, who had finished practicing boxing, watch himself being swallowed by the collapsed space. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 396. Guanghe Huafu, in Villa Number 7. After experiencing the second short dizziness, Zhang Fengjai regained consciousness, suddenly opened his eyes, and quickly and carefully looked around. Then, he found himself still sitting cross-legged in the guest room of the villa, with a look of doubt in his eyes. Thinking of the strange experience in the strange space and the appearance of the second grandfather in the space, the reason was that he used consciousness to check the innate vitality sealed in his arm just now, so he quickly closed his eyes to check. But after the inspection, he couldn't help but change his face. Because the innate Yuanli sealed in the meridians of the right arm disappeared inexplicably. As a life-saving trump card that can kill the 9th-level foundation building strongman suddenly disappeared, Zhang Fengjai first felt not distressed, but inexplicably panicked. Because he was worried that the mutated and disappeared innate Yuanli would likely bring him unpredictable dangers and hidden dangers, so he quickly used the means of internal vision to carefully check the condition of his body. Finally, he found that the originally milky white Danshan spiritual power turned dark gray, and exuded a mysterious aura that could make thoughts clear and consciousness free from the constraints of the body. Through the mysterious aura emitted by the gray energy, he knew that the innate Yuanli that disappeared in the arm meridians appeared in the Danshan and had completely merged with the spiritual power. However, this fusion change that was completely beyond his control and imagination not only made him not panic at all, but he began to run the Hunyuan taking heart method silently. Because of the changes after the fusion of Danshan spiritual power and innate Yuanli, he suddenly thought of the subconscious eye of his third grandfather when he successfully advanced to the Qi condensation realm with the help of the Hunyuan taking heart method. The mind becomes a god, Hunyuan Wuji. Martial arts and Daoism dual cultivation, chaos and universe. Although it was just a subconscious eye, the third grandfather did not explain the true meaning of these two sentences in detail, but with his continuous practice and understanding of Hunyuan taking heart method, as well as checking the large number of classics collected in the Taoist temple, and then combined with the changes in Danshan's spiritual power, he could vaguely guess the meaning of the first half of these two sentences. Only when the mind completely breaks free from the constraints of the body can it truly master the essence of Hunyuan taking heart method. Only by truly mastering the balance of power in martial arts and Daoism dual cultivation can the properties of Danshan's spiritual power be completely changed. As for the second half of the two sentences, Hunyuan Wuji and Chaos Kinkan, he is still confused and knows nothing. Therefore, he will immediately run the Hunyuan taking heart method to see what the essence of the heart method is, and whether he can understand the true meaning of Hunyuan Wuji through the essence of the heart method. When the Hunyuan heart method drove the gray energy in the Danshan, a powerful feeling far superior to the Danshan spiritual power made him unable to help but shoot a gas-containing gray energy at a palm tree outside the villa. Without any sound or any fluctuation of power, the palm tree, which was about 4 meters high and nearly 30 centimeters in diameter, was directly blasted into countless powders by the gas. Chi. Looking at the palm tree powder scattered in the air, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but take a breath. Because before the Danshan spiritual power changed its color and attributes, even if he used all his strength to attack at close range, he couldn't instantly blast the palm tree into powder, even if he used the sword condensed by spiritual power. In other words, after the Danshan spiritual power was integrated into the mutated innate Yuan Li, his strength increased by at least 10 times. To go further, although his current cultivation has not broken through the foundation building realm, he has already possessed the powerful strength of the foundation building realm in advance. At this moment, a feeling of invincibility suddenly emerged in his heart, which made him vaguely understand the meaning of Hunyuan Wuji. Since Wuji is the ultimate, it indicates that the power in the realm is unlimited. But on the other hand, if the power is unlimited, then why should the realm be divided specifically? The doubts that emerged in his heart made him want to practice the Hunyuan taking heart method again to see if there was any deviation in his understanding just now. An incredible look immediately appeared in his eyes. Because he found that the Hunyuan taking heart method he originally practiced had completely changed. Not only were the hundreds of words recording the heart method reduced to only 130 words, but there was no division of realms, including chi condensation, foundation building, and golden pill, as well as more detailed levels of realms. The revised heart method has only one realm, that is, a realm that has no limit forever, a realm without any energy restrictions, and a realm without any bottlenecks. After 3 minutes, the shocked look in Zhang Fengjai's eyes was gradually replaced by doubts. First of all, if there is no specific realm, then how can he understand the strength of his own strength in detail? Could it be that after every retreat, he would take the risk to challenge others, and then use others' cultivation to judge his own strength, which would force him to offend more people? Secondly, if there is no restriction on energy, then is he an orthodox cultivator, an evil cultivator, a ghost cultivator, or a demon cultivator? Because in addition to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, there are more than a dozen special energies such as yin evil energy, yin cold energy, sun, moon, and stars. Thirdly, if there is no bottleneck, then will there be more opportunities to encounter inner demons during the practice, and how high will the achievements be in the future? After all, the decline of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth does not mean the shortage of other energies. Without the bottleneck of realm, wouldn't he be able to have the strength of foundation building and golden elixir realm in the shortest time and become the peerless strongman who determines the Chinese cultivation world? Fourthly, if there is no chi condensation, foundation building, and golden elixir realm, will he lose the benefits of realm feedback? For example, the communication between chi condensation realm and natural energy, the longevity of foundation building realm, and the flying of golden elixir realm, etc. Slowly closed his eyes, and after opening them again, the doubtful look in his eyes was replaced by determination. Then, he stood up and left the guest room, intending to take Yayun back to Shusan Jiang's home. Because of his own strange experience, the changes in Hunyuan taking heart method, and the inner doubts that could not be solved, he decided to personally consult the two grandfathers in the realm of Tongshen, let the two elders judge whether his changes were good or bad, and let them decide whether he would continue to practice the mutated Hunyuan taking heart method. Even if he had to endure the punishment from his great-grandfather and third-grandfather in anger, he would not dare to continue practicing. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 397. Guanghe Huafu, in Villa Number 7. After leaving the room and coming to the living room, Zhang Fengjai saw Zhuang Jian and Yiwen sitting on the sofa and chatting. He took a deep breath to adjust his mood and mentality, and then instructed Zhuang Jian. "Sister Yan, please hurry up and arrange a car. I will personally take Yiwen back to the Zhang family in Shushan." "Yezi, are you okay?" Zhuang Jian stood up suddenly, walked quickly in front of him, and asked with concern while reaching out to touch his forehead. "Sister Yan, what do you mean?" Zhuang Jian's inexplicable concern made Zhang Fengjai frown and asked. "Yezi, it's already more than 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and Yiwen has already returned from your hometown Jiangkan." After retracting the jade hand that was touching his forehead, Zhuang Jian also frowned and replied. At the same time, Yiwen also stood up and walked in front of him, saying with a little excitement in his eyes. "Master Zhang, I have met Senior Zhang this morning. Senior Zhang not only taught me the martial arts cultivation method of 10 directions annihilation, but also used special means to imprint his own cultivation insights and experience in my mind." Hearing Zhuang Jian's reply and Yiwen's excited narration, Zhang Fengjai quickly looked up at the door of the living room and found that it was the afternoon when the sun was setting and the sunset dyed the earth red. A look of shock flashed in his eyes. Because he did not expect that the seemingly short space journey would take such a long time. At the same time, he finally understood why the three grandfathers took at least several days or even more than 10 days to practice in solitude every time. "Master Zhang, this is what the two seniors asked me to pass on to you." Just when Zhang Fengjai was shocked by the long time it took to practice in solitude, Yiwen took out an envelope from his pants pocket and handed it to him respectfully. Reaching out to open the envelope handed to him by Yiwen, he found that there were 3 old and 1 new talismans in the envelope. Taking out 3 old-looking talismans, Zhang Fengjai took a closer look and found that they were a Black Thunder talisman, a mountain-shaking talisman and a shape-changing talisman that could transform into a dragon, which were carefully collected by his third grandfather. A look of surprise flashed in his eyes. If, among the 3 sword chi given by his third grandfather, the heavenly sword chi can kill a strong man at the peak of the 9th level of the foundation building, then, the Black Thunder talisman and the mountain-shaking talisman can kill the top strong men who have touched the Jindan realm. And the dragon transformed by the shape-changing talisman not only has the strength of the peak of the 9th level of the foundation building, but also can take him to realize his dream of flying by flying in the clouds. It can be said to be a trump card that can really save his life. After happily putting away the 3 talismans, Zhang Fengjai mobilized the gray energy in his dantian to try to drive the new talisman in his hand for transmission. The result made him very satisfied. Because the speed of using gray energy to drive the opening of the talisman is at least nearly 3/10 faster than that of using spiritual power to drive it. Although the reduced time seems very short, in a life and death battle, this little time may become the key to victory or defeat. The talisman driven by the gray energy automatically burned, and then the flame of the talisman gradually condensed into a kind-looking, white-haired old man. Zhuang Jian, who suddenly became nervous, quickly tidied up her makeup and looked at the white-haired old man with a little shyness on her face. But unfortunately, her nervous behavior just now was completely in vain, because the white-haired old man didn't notice her at all. Fortunately, what made Zhuang Jian feel more relieved was that the white-haired old man didn't pay attention to Zhang Fengjai and Yiwen. "Yezi, the problems you encountered during your practice are far beyond the scope of what we can solve," So your third grandfather's intention is to let you explore and try on your own, and then walk out of your own path of practice. Yezi, according to your third grandfather's calculations using the Book of Changes, the inner sect and core disciples of the Taoist sect will enter the secular world for training in the near future, and will come to trouble you for some special reasons. Your second and third grandfathers mean that no matter who comes to trouble you, you don't need to care about the forces behind them. Kill if you can, and destroy if you can. Little Yezi, I will never easily calm down about the fact that you and the third brother have plotted against me, so when you go home for the new year, you'd better be able to think of a way to calm me down, otherwise, the punishment waiting for you will be 100 gold coins. As the last warning sounded, the body of the white-haired old man quickly dimmed, and then completely disappeared. Yezi, is this kind-looking old man your great-grandfather? Just after the white-haired old man transformed by the spell disappeared, Zhuang Jian guessed with a hint of excitement. Yes, he is my great-grandfather. After nodding his head with a somewhat ugly face, Zhang Fengjai turned around and went upstairs to the guest room, then sat cross-legged on the blanket and began to think deeply. Unlike his usual cunning and cleverness, the three grandfathers who accepted the traditional Confucian ideas were more straightforward and serious. Since the great-grandfather and the third grandfather said that they could not solve the trouble he was facing now, then there was really no way. In other words, in the future practice process, he not only had no experience to adopt, but also had to be careful every time he practiced. If this is the case, the effect of Hunyuan taking heart method on improving strength may not be as powerful as he imagined. Since the third grandfather allowed him to explore and try a new practice mode alone, he would use the exploration to solve several questions in his heart. As for the troubles of the sect training disciples mentioned by the great-grandfather just now, and the warning to go home for the new year, he didn't take it to heart at all. Firstly, with the heavenly sword chi and 3 top-level spells given by the third grandfather, as well as the 4 terrifying demonic powers given by the special beings in Shusan, no matter whether it was an ordinary inner disciple or a core disciple who was trained with emphasis, whoever provoked him would die. Secondly, there were still 4 months before the Lunar New Year. He believed that the great-grandfather and the third grandfather would definitely calm down by then, and at most they would criticize and complain about him severely. After taking a deep breath and calming down the slightly irritable emotions in his heart, Zhang Fengjai closed his eyes and ran the Hunyuan taking heart method, and began to try to absorb the remaining cold and evil spirits between heaven and earth. At this moment, a black and a white giant bat quickly landed on the roof of Villa number 8. Then, the giant white bat turned into a middle-aged man in his 40s wearing a tuxedo and with an elegant temperament. Then, the middle-aged man looked at Villa number 7, which was filled with a lot of cold and evil auras, and asked with a puzzled look in his eyes. "Black Bat, are you sure that the murderer who captured Garcia is hiding in the villa in front of you?" The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 398. Guanghe Washington Mansion, on the roof of Villa number 8. Facing the middle-aged man's question, the black bat moved its position slightly, then used its huge flesh wings to point at the open window of Villa number 7 and emit a silent sound wave. Flashing to the right side of the black bat, the middle-aged man looked through the open windowsill and saw the thin boy sitting cross-legged in the room with his knees bent, exactly like the photo provided by the Supernatural Research Institute. A sharp murderous intent flashed in his eyes. However, when he thought that the thin young man in the room was the most mysterious monk in China, he was afraid that the murderous intention that just flashed in his eyes would arouse the other person's alert. The middle-aged man quickly left the windowsill and said to the black bat, "Black Bat, if you can kill this kid, I will give you a drop of Earl-level blood essence. If you can capture this kid alive, I will give you 3 drops of Earl-level blood essence." When hearing the choice given by the middle-aged man, the black bat fell into deep thought. At this moment, 5 internal masters wearing black night clothes suddenly appeared in front of the wall of number 7 courtyard, and then they jumped nearly 3 meters and landed on the wall. Immediately afterwards, they drew out the sharp long knives that emitted cold light from their backs, and lightly jumped into the courtyard of the villa. Who? Just as a slightly short man in black walked to the door of the villa's living room, a sharp scolding came from the living room. Accompanied by sharp scoldings, two graceful figures quickly appeared at the door, looking at the 5 men in black with sharp expressions. Seeing the two beauties standing at the door of the living room and their voluptuous and sexy bodies, one of them, a strong man in black, ordered with a trace of reluctance in his eyes. Eradicate the roots and leave no one behind. Sister Yan, sweep the formation for me, and I'll use them to test the power of the boxing technique. Facing the 5 men in black who were surrounding them, Yiwen turned around and warned Zhuang Jian, then rushed forward, and then used the boxing techniques he had just learned to fight against the 5 martial arts masters with his bare hands. In this regard, Zhuang Jian, who chose to respect Yiwen's decision, mobilized the spiritual power of her dantian to condense a sharp sword, and then always paid attention to the situation of the fight, so that she could help Yiwen in time when she encountered danger. However, when she saw that Yiwen could not only easily avoid the attacks of the 5 men in black, but also make the opponent vomit blood with every counterattack, she was secretly relieved. At the same time, she also expressed her gratitude to Yiwen. The second grandfather, who was a master of martial arts and boxing skills, was filled with admiration and admiration. You know, Yi Wenkong only had half a day to accept and practice martial arts mental techniques and boxing techniques. In such a short period of time, he was able to deal with 5 masters of martial arts who had reached the peak of their internal strength, which is enough to prove the power of his mental and boxing skills, and indirectly shows the strength of his teaching methods. What a thick blood! What a delicious blood! Just as Yiwen punched away the short man in black, the middle-aged man on the roof of Villa number 8 flashed a look of surprise in his eyes and stuck out his tongue. He licked his lips and muttered to himself. At the same time, the black bat, who fell into silence, also made the decision to capture Zhang Fengjai alive in exchange for 3 drops of the Count's blood essence. Black bat, you go capture that kid alive, and I'll catch the delicious prey. When he got the final choice from the black bat, the middle-aged man gave an excited shout, turned into a giant white bat, and then rushed towards Yiwen who was fighting. Not good. When she saw the giant white bat flying quickly towards Yiwen, who was fighting with him, Zhuang Jian, who was familiar with and understood the nature of vampires, said something bad in secret, and immediately jumped up and waved her sword, slashing directly at the white bat. Bat wings. Facing Zhuang Jian who dared to hinder her from catching delicious food, the white bat flashed a disdainful sneer in its eyes, grabbed the sword directly with its sharp claws, and then tried hard to break the sword. But at this moment, a fierce force of energy went straight to its heart, causing the white bat's face to change slightly, and he quickly let go of the sword, and then flapped his flesh wings hard to avoid the energy. This also allowed Zhuang Jian to land safely. Return to the courtyard. Zhuang Jian's sudden attack immediately attracted the attention of Yiwen and the 5 men in black. But when they saw the giant white bat with wings spread over 4 meters, they immediately gathered together with a look of horror in their eyes. Yiwen's face changed slightly as he clenched his jade fists. A look of determination flashed in his eyes, and he planned to use the life-saving trump card given by the senior. However, the white bat suddenly let go of the sword, which made her stop using her life-saving trump card, and then turned to look at Zhang Fengjai who appeared at the door of the living room. In fact, the moment the black bat and the white bat entered the Guanghe Palace, their consciousness, which was able to break away from the shackles of the physical body, had already noticed it in advance. The reason why he didn't attack immediately was because of the second level. Firstly, it was because he was trying his best to absorb the gathered Yinhan and Yinsha energy, and feel the effects of different energies on improving his strength. Secondly, he is not 100% sure that the other party's target is him. However, When the white bat transformed middle-aged man's eyes flashed with fierce murderous intent, he had already begun to gradually reduce the absorption of Yin-Han and Yin-Sha energy, and then at the moment they launched their attack, he went downstairs in advance to protect Zhuang Jiyan and Yiwen. Yezi, according to the investigation and research of the Supernatural Research Institute on Western Alien Races, the white bat in front of you should be a vampire at the Earl level. With the strength of the fourth level of foundation building, Zhuang Jian landed steadily on the ground and quickly returned to Zhang Fenjai to remind her. Sister Yan, don't worry. After smiling and comforting, Zhang Fenjai turned her head to look at the giant black bat rushing out of the guest room, with a fierce murderous intent flashing in her eyes. Feeling the fierce murderous intent flashing in Zhang Fenjai's eyes, Zhuang Jian couldn't help but turn around and look. When she saw the giant black bat with a wingspan of more than 4 meters and the sword wound on one of the flesh wings, her face suddenly changed and reminded Zhang Fenjai. Yezi, it was the father of the Black Bat King on the night we met. It was also the murderer of the infanticide case 10 years ago. It was killed by Qiu Lao and 3 other strong men in the foundation building realm, but I didn't expect it to be still alive. The infanticide case 10 years ago can be said to be a tragic and major case that shocked the entire Dongshan province. Even in Zhang village in the remote mountainous area, there are rumors about the bizarre process of this case. It is said that every 3 days at midnight, a baby less than 100 days old will disappear inexplicably. Even if the family members are closely guarding by their side, they still cannot detect the disappearance of the child. What's more cruel is that in just 2 months, a total of 20 babies were lost, which attracted the government's great attention, and then a large number of capable police were sent to solve the case. Later, it was said that a crime-solving expert in the province personally took action and successfully caught a criminal gang that specialized in trafficking babies. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 399. Guanghe Huafu, in the courtyard of Villa No. 7. Because he was only a child of 7 or 8 years old 10 years ago, his thoughts were still relatively simple, and the 3 grandfathers rarely discussed things about the secular world in front of him. Therefore, Zhang Fenjai always thought that the murderer of the infanticide case was a criminal gang that specialized in trafficking children. Now, after hearing Zhuang Jian's reminder, thinking of the 20 babies who were eaten alive, Zhang Fenjai no longer concealed the strong murderous intent in his eyes, and mobilized the gray energy to condense a sharp sword, and took out an old colored talisman from his sleeve. The giant white bat that avoided the Qijin sneak attack quickly landed in the yard, and then turned into a middle-aged man in a tuxedo with an elegant temperament. Vampire. The strange change of the giant white bat made the 5 men in black suddenly change their faces, and quietly approached the door of the villa to prepare to withdraw. But just as they moved their feet, the 3 sharp eyes of Zhang Fenjai, the middle-aged man and the black bat frightened them to the ground. Among them, the short black-clothed man fainted from fear. Garcia's elder, Zhang Fenjai looked directly at the middle-aged man and asked after retracting his warning to the black-clothed man. Adrian Marquez, I have met the mysterious young monk and 2 beautiful ladies. Facing Zhang Fenjai's inquiry, the middle-aged man immediately saluted in a very gentlemanly manner. Since you are an elder of the Garcia family, you are here to seek revenge, so let's do it. Garcia's last name is also Marquez, so after hearing Adrian's false salute, Zhang Fenjai gestured indifferently and began to use the gray energy to drive the shape-shifting talisman. No, no, no. Seeing Zhang Fenjai preparing to fight with him, Adrian hurriedly shook his finger and shook his head to signal. Mysterious young monk, your opponent is not this Earl, but the great Black Bat King. No, no, no. Turning his head to look at the black bat that was flapping its wings quickly and preparing to attack him, Zhang Fenjai raised his mouth slightly and shook his head to Adrian. Mr. Adrian, Your opponent is this young master. As for that flat-haired beast, this young master has prepared a suitable opponent for it. Then, he directly threw out the talisman driven by gray energy. Cry. Accompanied by the eagle cry that shocked the sky and stopped the clouds, a handsome and fierce giant hawk with a wingspan of more than 7 meters rushed out from the flames of the talisman. Then, the hawk flapped its wings and pounced directly on the black bat that was retreating with a look of fear in its eyes. When Zhang Fengjai used the talisman to transform into a larger hawk monster, the strong man in black flashed a trace of resentment in his eyes. Because the financier who paid him to kill someone did not mention that there would be such a terrifying strong man protecting the target of the assassination. Otherwise, no matter how much money he was offered, he would not risk his brothers to seek death. Seeing that a mere yellow paper with an old color could actually transform into a hawk monster that was stronger than the Black Bat King, Adrian's eyes flashed with a look of shock and greed, and he suddenly disappeared from the spot. But just as Adrian disappeared, Zhang Fengjai, who looked as calm as water, stabbed his head with a sharp sword condensed with gray energy in his hand. Swish! Accompanied by the sound of a cloth being cut, Adric reappeared in the original place, looking at the tuxedo with a long cut on his right shoulder, his face instantly darkened. Because of the sneak attack just now, in addition to the speed advantage of the vampire himself, he also secretly cast a dark magic to assist speed. Even the cardinals and paladins of the Western Church could hardly react in time, let alone make any counterattack. But what about this thin young man in front of him? Not only can he accurately discover the trajectory of his sneak attack, but he can also effectively counterattack at a speed that exceeds the sneak attack. How can this not make Edric extremely shocked? Mr. Edric, there is a classic saying in our Chinese Book of Rites, which is called "It is impolite not to return the favor." Zhang Fengjai, whose expression did not change at all, slowly raised his sword and pointed it at Edric to remind him. So, it's your turn to bear my sword attack next. A group attack sword technique evolved from a basic sword style, mud and gold 10,000 points, made Zhang Fengjai's shaking sword instantly shoot out countless invisible sword energy, and then quickly covered all of Edric's vital points. Facing the invisible sword energy that could not be fully dodged, Edric cut his finger and threw out more than a dozen drops of blood, and then shouted violently, "Shield of the Blood Clan!" Accompanied by Edric's roar, a dozen drops of blood mixed with a hint of golden yellow instantly condensed into a huge red shield about 2 meters high and 1.5 meters wide, and then blocked in front of Edric. Bang, bang, bang. Immediately afterwards, countless sharp invisible sword chi continuously shot at the shield, making crisp hitting sounds, and the blood-colored shield was also approaching Edric little by little. Facing the blood-colored shield that the invisible sword chi could not break, Zhang Fengjai swung the sword without any change in his expression, and directly performed a move of the basic sword technique to split Huashan. Afterwards, a gray and heavy visible sword chi slashed heavily at the blood-colored shield in front of Edric. Boom! Accompanied by a strong roar, the gray and heavy sword energy directly split the blood-colored shield in half, and the sword energy continued to slash at Edric with no reduction in power. Even the dark magic vampire protection cast by the essence of blood could be easily split, which made Edric's eyes flash with a trace of fear. Then, he quickly stretched out a pair of more than 2 meters long flesh wings behind him, and then flapped them vigorously to quickly distance himself from the gray sword energy. Then, the pale and skinny 10 fingers shot out one after another black energy to continuously offset the power of the gray sword energy. Edric's action to offset the visible sword energy made Zhang Fengjai's mouth slightly raised, and the sharp sword in his hand suddenly stabbed forward. An invisible sword energy, with a speed faster than the wind, quickly passed the gray and heavy sword energy and went straight to Edric's heart. Feeling the deadly danger brought by the invisible sword energy, Edric's face suddenly changed. He immediately used his wings to wrap himself, and then used the wings that also had strong defense to resist the invisible sword energy. Puff! Although the invisible sword energy successfully pierced the wings, the attack power contained in the sword energy was also offset by the strong defense of the wings, that is, it did not really hurt Edric, which also made him secretly relieved. But Edric ignored a very fatal problem, that is, behind the invisible sword energy, there was a more powerful visible sword energy. So, when Edric spread his wings with a long sigh of relief, the grey sword energy directly chopped his chest. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 400. Guanghe Washington Mansion, in the courtyard of Villa Number 7. Boom. With a strong roar, Edric, who was hit in the chest by the grey sword energy, immediately jumped into the air, and then fell heavily to the ground like a thrown stone. Puff, puff, puff. Edric, who was already very pale, turned even more pale as a white paper after spitting out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence. However, the powerful vitality possessed by vampires and the bizarre recovery ability allowed the bone-deep wound on Edric's chest to quickly recover to its original shape at a speed visible to the physical body. Facing such a powerful recovery ability, Zhang Fenjai's eyes flashed with a look of envy. Because whether it is external injury or internal injury, it will affect the performance of strength during the battle. If you can master this terrifying recovery ability, you can greatly increase your attack power while reducing your own defense. Bang! Just when Zhang Fenjai was about to continue to use his sword skills in order to replenish Edric's heart with sword energy and completely send him back to the embrace of the blood ancestor, a huge black shadow, like a kite with a broken string, hit him hard. Edric sighed. Seeing the black bat with its wings broken, its aura dropped to the point where even Zhuang Jian could easily kill it. A look of satisfaction flashed in Zhang Fenjai's eyes, and then he waved to the goshawk in mid-air. Then, the goshawk waved its wings and rushed down, but when it was still 3 meters away from Zhang Fenjai's raised right hand, it changed back to a slightly old-colored talisman. After taking the talisman that floated into his palm, Zhang Fenjai took a closer look and found that the runes on the talisman paper had begun to dim. He knew that this talisman could only be activated once before it would be completely invalid. Putting away the talisman and clenching the sword, Zhang Fenjai stepped in front of Edric and the black bat. He first used the sword to completely destroy the black bat's stanchion, and then flew directly to Zhuang Jian's feet and gave instructions. Sister Yan, contact the person in charge of the Supernatural Research Institute and ask them to send someone to collect this black bat, but don't forget our contribution. Yezi, don't worry. She took out a charm from her sleeve and put it on the black bat's head. Zhuang Jian nodded with a hint of surprise in her eyes. If you want to take away this black bat king with research value, you must either exchange it for precious medicinal materials, or buy it with a huge sum of money. Zhuang Jian's request was also the reason why Zhang Fenjai was willing to hand over the black bat to the Supernatural Research Institute, so a look of satisfaction flashed in his eyes, and his eyes returned to the position of Edric's heart. Just as he raised his sword and was about to send the opponent back to the arms of the blood ancestor, Edric immediately took out a purple ring and said, "Mysterious young monk, I am the elder of the Marquez family. I have tens of billions of gold and silver treasures, precious antiques and manors in my name. I am willing to give them to you for free. I just hope to gain your forgiveness." Slowly putting down the raised sword, Zhang Fenjai showed a thoughtful look in his eyes, which made Edric suddenly nervous and continued to remind him. "Mysterious young monk, among the antiques in my collection, there are not only precious cultural relics that your Chinese lost more than 100 years ago, but also 2 treasures that are suspected to be refined by your Chinese monks. How can you deliver those gold and silver treasures and precious cultural relics to me?" When he heard Edric mention the precious cultural relics lost in China for more than 100 years, the national dignity that emerged in his heart made Zhang Fenjai decide to agree to the other party's request. Not to mention, the other party mentioned the 2 treasures that were suspected to be Taoist artifacts. After all, during the Great War between China and the West decades ago, the Chinese monks who participated in the war did lose many precious Taoist artifacts. In a machinery factory in the provincial capital, there is a stronghold of the Marquez family. I can contact the family through the person in charge of the stronghold, and then ask them to deliver the treasure to you. Seeing Zhang Fenjai's reaction to the exchange, the proposal was very interesting, and after Edric secretly breathed a sigh of relief, he quickly explained. After hearing Edric's explanation, a disdainful sneer flashed in Zhang Fenjai's eyes, and he secretly guessed. In addition to the gold and silver treasures and precious cultural relics sent to me, I am afraid there are also more powerful masters from your Marquez family. However, even though he had guessed Edric's sinister intentions, Zhang Fenjai not only did not expose it to his face, but instead reached out to help him up and warned him with a smile. Mr. Edric, that batch of lost cultural relics is not only very precious, but also has very high historical research value. Therefore, in order to ensure the safety of the cultural relics, I decided to let you go to the stronghold in the provincial capital in person to be responsible for contacting the family, and then be responsible for escorted to me. Mysterious young monk, are you sure? Edric asked in disbelief. Absolutely, definitely, and 100% sure, Zhang Fenjai nodded and assured. Aren't you afraid of me escaping secretly? Edric asked, still unbelievably. Mr. Edric was right to remind you, but I actually ignored it. Zhang Fenjai suddenly slapped his forehead hard, and immediately pretended to be suddenly enlightened. Edric, who didn't realize that Zhang Fenjai was deliberately pretending to be negligent, wished he could give himself a loud slap in the ear, blaming himself for being so talkative that he lost the chance to escape. The mind connected with the Taoist silver needle in the sea of consciousness, and under Edric's horrified gaze, it pierced directly into his heart, and then kindly reminded him. Mr. Edric, the silver needle just now is the magic weapon refined by my Chinese monks. It can be controlled by my mind to launch an attack, and it is not restricted by time and space. In other words, whether it is in the machinery factory in the provincial capital or in the distant Marquez family, as long as I want, I can control the Taoist silver needle to launch an attack anytime and anywhere. At this point, Zhang Fenjai reached out and patted Edric's shoulder, reminding him earnestly. So, Mr. Edric, you'd better keep your promise and send me that batch of precious gold and silver treasures and precious cultural relics from the provincial capital, and don't let me have the idea of controlling the Taoist silver needle to launch an attack. Edric, with sweat beads like raindrops on his forehead, quickly patted his chest and promised. Mysterious young monk, Edric is a nobleman who keeps his promises. He promises to deliver the promised treasure to you in the shortest possible time. Mr. Edric, you can go to the provincial capital now to handle this matter. After nodding to the remittance slip and believing in his promise, Zhang Fenjai waved his hand. Goodbye. After giving the courtesy of a Western gentleman, Edric immediately turned into a white bat and soared into the sky, then headed straight to the southwest where the provincial capital was located.